Okay, so of course I'd like to flip through, and I'd like to also welcome you back to Strife's Talking Points. Today, I've been doing a little research in between things, and have really gotten into this Beto Orourke destroys Trump border wall lies. Now this. I don't know if you know what Now This is. I kind of watch it. It has huge subscriber base, but generally not a lot of views. Most of these are just kind of trashy little articles where they give almost no explanation. They just go after a certain point of view. Now, it's already playing a little bit here. Walls do not, as the president has claimed.
Do not, as the president has claimed, save lives. Walls end lives.
Now, walls end lives. Beto Orourke rebuked Trump, saying immigrants, not walls, make the U.S. safe. Now, he's being overly hyperbolic. However, that just happens.
We want to stop drugs. We want to stop traffickers. We want to stop criminals from coming in.
All right, so there's the crux of what the border wall is. We want to stop criminals, want to stop drugs. That's what we want to stop. Drugs, traffickers, criminals.
Criminals from coming in. Walls save lives.
Now, here's the flip on this. Want to build a border wall? We can learn a lot from Israel. Israel built their wall. It's mostly a metal wall, not a lot of concrete. You can see it here. It's really heavy fencing. Goes all around the area. Actually, I believe circles most of Israel. The fence was built in response to 132 Palestinian suicide bombings between 2000 and 2004, which killed 500 Israelis and wounded thousands more. Israel basically built the wall, surrounded themselves to keep out Hamas, keep out terrorist attacks, to keep out illegals. And it has been very, very successful for them. Soon after its inauguration, President Trump pointed out the effectiveness. Israel has a wall, and everyone said, don't build a wall. Walls don't work. 99% of people trying to come across the wall cannot get across. According to Israeli Ministry of Defense, the southern border fence reduced the flow of illegal immigrants into Israel from hundreds per month to 11 in 2016. None of whom reached Israeli cities undetected. So hundreds a month, meaning a few thousand a year, to 11 for a full year, none of which got to any cities. The negative side of this that I found was Al Jazeera has a report on Donald Trump is wrong about an Israeli security wall, and really all they have is the wall is unfair. Israel's wall separates families from their land, communities from each other, and communities from education, medical, and religious service. Israel built a wall around itself to keep out illegals, to keep out violence, to keep out drug trafficking, and it worked. Now, the main thing they're saying is because people are forced to come through at checkpoints, this is bad. This is a bad thing, and you should think it's bad. I was kind of going through this as far as the PolitiFact, which I use quite a bit to kind of check on stuff. They go through it, and they actually have to give it mostly true. Constructing 143-mile fence along its southern border cut out the flow of drugs, the illegals, such and so forth. It was a big thing.
Walls save tremendous numbers of lives.
As the President of the United States of America visited our hometown of El Paso, Texas, you showed up. More than 10,000 people in a profoundly positive, powerful protest, not against a man or even his policies, but an effort to show who we are at our best. This beautiful, safe city, one of the safest in the United States of America, not because of walls, but in spite of walls.
Now, there you go. Not because of walls, in spite of walls. Here's you can go to the FBI and you can actually research some of this. One of the things they're always trying to target is murderers, brutal, violent crime, torture, such and so forth coming across the border. It's their big thing. Beto Orourke, in another statement,
not represent the border, but he is in Texas. Dan Crenshaw, who's a new member of Congress, he's been very outspoken in favor of the president's agenda on the border, particularly.
Right.
And he wanted to ask you. He tweeted this. I'm just passing it along. It's not something he didn't text me.
MSNBC.
You know,
so
would you, if you
pushing.
could, would you take the wall down now? Here.
Yes.
Like you have a wall. Like,
Absolutely.
knock it down.
I'd take the wall down.
And do you think the city? You think if there's a referendum here in this city, that would pass?
I do. Here's what we know. After the Secure Fence Act, we have built 600 miles of wall and fencing on a 2,000-mile border. What that has done is not in any demonstrable way made us safer. It's cost us tens of billions of dollars to build and to maintain, and it has pushed migrants and asylum seekers and refugees to the
legal ports of entry. That's all you have to say. That's what it's doing. It's pushing them to actual legal ports of entry so that they have to go through some type of vetting, some type of check-in. By having a wall, you're not removing border crossings. Sorry, I can't find that image. Yeah, you're not removing all the border crossings. You're just saying you have to come through at one of those.
The most inhospitable, the most hostile stretches of the U.S.-Mexico border, ensuring their suffering and death. More than 4,000 human beings, little kids, women, and
now playing to emotion.
Children have died. They're not in cages. They're not locked up. They're not separated. They're dead over the last 10 years as we have walled off their opportunity
to go through legal ports of entry.
Legally petition for asylum to cross.
If you legally petition for asylum in the U.S., you have to cross into a legal port of entry, and then you apply for asylum there.
In urban centers like El Paso, to be with family, to work jobs, to do what any human being should have a right to be able to do, what we would do if faced with the same circumstances they were.
What I'm hearing from you is something bolder or in some ways more ambitious than just...
Now, he's referring to how safe El Paso is in the past thing. Here's actually the crime statistics. In 92, El Paso was up here. Still pretty good for the city, for size, and then over time they've dropped to here. What happened as you see this was going up and up and up all across America? What happened? What changed? In 1996, well, hopefully this will load shortly. President Clinton was elected. And when Clinton was elected, he instituted a policy on immigration. President Clinton is making our border a place where law is respected and drugs and illegal immigrants are turned away. We've increased Border Patrol by over 40%. In El Paso, Border Patrol agents are so close together they can see each other. A direct reference to El Paso. Later that year alone, Clinton administration removed thousands of illegal workers from jobs across the country. Since January 95, arrested more than 1,000. However, as we work to stop illegal immigration, so today's Democratic Party believes we must remain a nation of laws. We cannot tolerate illegal immigration, and we must stop it. For years before Bill Clinton became president, Washington talked tough but failed to act. In 1992, our borders might as well not have existed. The border was unpatrolled, and what patrols were were under-equipped, drugs flowed freely, illegal immigration was rampant, criminal immigrants deported after coming in America returned the very next day to commit crimes again. So, in 92, strict enforcement through Clinton, Bill Clinton started, and you see crime rates start to fall. Now we're at a point where through border security, through these types of things, you're even seeing actual immigration numbers that were spiking starting to fall. Beto Orourke would have you remove all walls, go back to the
wall.
point
I mean, it
where
sounds like you're
crime and
saying
drugs go through.
The kinds of ways we treated the border, starting basically post 9/11, 2006.
Now, back. The way we started treating it in 92, 93 under Clinton when it was being pushed. 9/11, you see it trending down again, just staying down. As border security ramps up, you see overall crime dropping. And that's just unique to me, how that's crazy. And how much, let's say we spend $10 billion on a wall, how much money would that save us? $20 billion on a wall, doesn't matter. Does illegal immigration cost the United States more than $100 billion a year? Now, you see this number thrown out all the time. And there's a couple of different groups that have it, like here's $135 billion, take 19, then it's 116, $19 billion being sales tax paid in the U.S. Fares $12.5 million. They're just, and then you see this article from AZ Central. They're kind of pushing the numbers around. They're trying to say that sometimes maybe it's only 10.8, and then there's a disputed survey as well. Here is the guesstimate on numbers. Again, it's very hard to track the number of illegals in the country, but it's somewhere around 11.3 million, possibly as high as 12. NBC did a thing on this. Now, keep in mind, we're going back to here. Estimates around 116, 135, somewhere in that ballpark range. Well, NBC goes out, and this is in December of last year. They run the number frankly absurd, and they're going up against this $200 billion number that Trump threw out, just because Trump is Trump and he throws out numbers. So they do the bare minimum of research, and then here we go. Conservative groups like heritage foundations have sought to put a price tag on illegal immigration. 2013 estimate $54 billion a year. Now, that $54 billion is the cost if we declare amnesty. Flip those people, turn them into a net taxpayer to where they would actually have to start paying federal taxes, would become $54 billion. NBC kind of skips over that and just runs with it. And then they start chopping the numbers up, saying basically people with fake Social Security numbers who actually cause issues for people with real Social Security numbers because they've had it stolen and they're trying to pay Social Security tax or get a tax refund. And here's actually what they call the FAIR report, fiscal burden. It runs through all the numbers, does a lot of stuff, and you end up at about $116 billion. Now, the original report here is going to counterbalance that with studies ran by another group, and I popped that one up right here. And this one is economic and financial consequences of immigration. Now, the initial group is trying to say that, hey, immigrants don't really cost that much. So they lump in all immigrants, legal and illegal, and their children and generational immigration. So they're taking 40 million immigrants and cutting out a piece, about 10 million. So they're taking a quarter of them as illegal and just rolling them all in together. And the research they're doing is basically show that second generation and further along immigrants are productive. They're not going after the initial numbers. Seems like a pretty false thing to do, pretty odd. Here, border security along the southwest, fact sheet. Border agents, you see it continue to spike. As you see border agents spike, you see crime falling. I'll be the first to admit causation and correlation are not the same thing. However, you do see arrests per year going up. And I just find it so strange that This is the big issue. We have approximately 11 million illegal people in the country, and doing anything to combat them is a bad thing. Beto Orourke on Now This.
Not in spite of the fact that we are a city of immigrants, but because we are a city of immigrants.
Now, I don't think he understands what an immigrant is. Once you're in the country for a generation or two, you're no longer an immigrant. You are native born. Literally, if you're born in the country, that means you're a native born. And what is the problem with a wall to keep out illegal drug trafficking, criminals, humans being sold for sex trafficking or child slavery? We're blocking that. And immigrants enter the country legally. If you're an asylum seeker, you can come into the country legally. If you're walking across the desert, that doesn't mean you're an asylum seeker or a refugee. You have to enter countries legally. And that's kind of the idea. And this is the National Immigration Forum, where they were discussing the costs of a wall. You see it pegged. Sorry, I had the point. I lost it. Fencing and technology. A fence appropriation to secure any additional areas of border, since constructing a wall spanning the entire southwest border will cost $25 to $31 billion and about $274 million to maintain. Okay, so we're spending $116 billion a year to support illegals in the country, and if we spent, let's just call it $30 billion to build the wall, and then begin strictly enforcing and pushing out the rest, you would see a net savings. Let's say we only cut half of the cost out of it, from 116 billion to 60 billion. You see a net savings of over $50 billion after building the wall. Cost of immigration on the border, you do see this keep going up, and as you see this go up, you see lower and lower crime rates along the border, because a lot of this money is spent directly on border patrol. $13.2 billion. ICE is what you consider when they are inside the country. Border patrol is the people along the edges of the country. So border patrol, ICE. Border patrol, ICE. You see more and more money spent on this, and it has had a net positive effect overall. And that is just the thing that people like Beto Orourke.
Those refugees, those immigrants, makes us stronger, makes us more.
So the conflation is immigrants versus illegal aliens, asylums, refugee seekers. All of those can enter through legal ports of entry and are fine.
More successful, and yes, makes us more secure. So at a time when not a single terrorist organization has planned or attacked the United States, exploiting the U.S.-Mexico border,
except for the massive drug trafficking that comes through ports of entry, illegal tunnels in San Francisco, San Diego, I believe, whatever it was. You can look that up. That's amazing. There's 700 feet of tunnels underground. It's amazing.
At a moment that we have 20,000 Border Patrol agents
all across the country,
walking the line 2,000 miles long that connects us with Mexico. When we're spending $20 billion a year already on those agents, on the customs officers, on the drones, the aerostat blimps, the militarization of a border that already has 600 miles of walls and fencing. We don't need another wall. We don't need another fence, because let me tell you this.
I'm emotionally signaling to you.
Walls do not, as the president has claimed, save lives.
Effective law enforcement, effective policies, effective enforcement save lives, cut down crime, and cause the city he's standing in to be one of the safest places, much safer than other countries, other places of the size. Because of enactments, because of things that have happened, it continually gets safer and safer. What he's saying is, let's flip all that back and let's go back to raising the violent crime rate back up. Let's do that. That is Beto O'Rourke's signal.
And lives.
Now, federal data shows most drugs enter the U.S. at legal ports of entry. So let's say that we could cut down drug entry by 60%, or 30%. Let's say we take 30% of illegal drugs off the market. That would be great. Let's say we can cut from the $100 billion, let's say we cut $50 billion out of it, and then have the wall maintenance of $274 million to maintain the fence and border. It seems like a win-win. I know that's what Beto Orourke wasn't wanting to do, but unfortunately, you just have to go back and look at what we've done as a country, what the policies have been to get us to where we are today. It is a very simple thought. We secured our borders as we've ramped up protection every day, every year, safer and safer. Thank you. Have a great day.